my sweat time. Gonna bust up your behind. This is my sweat time. Gonna mess up your whole mind.
Welcome to Work the Left Side. We are back for episode 3 of DeathMatch Wrestling for Dummies, aka me. And always, I am joined by the teacher, the educator in the ways of the destruction. It is Mr. Radu Bulat. How are you doing, matey? You good?
I'm not doing so bad. Well, aside from that thing that we discussed, before we started recording, but let's just say that explosion matches are fun to watch, but they're not fun to try and organise in your own house. And let's just keep that joke in between us, okay?
Yes. We're not talking AEW fireworks, sprinkles, or sparklers either. But no, dude. Obviously, as I said, it's episode 3. This is basically on the back of a couple of matches that we watched in episode 2. We watched a couple of women's death matches in that when we were looking at trained and untrained, or people have been doing it for a few years compared to people who've been doing it for numerous years. And we decided to do an episode just purely on women's death matches because I had no idea they existed before I even started doing this kind of thing. For me, I think Britt Baker was deemed as hardcore, or Thunder Rosa, based on a few matches I've seen them have in AEW. That's nothing compared to what I watched today.
And I imagine, considering the few words that we exchanged before we started recording, you were thoroughly entertained and thoroughly disturbed by the lengths of which some women's wrestling can get when you incorporate deathmatch gimmicks into the whole thing. But which one do we want to get started with?
I say go through the list in the order that you kind of sent them through. So again, I don't know the names. It was a Japanese match. It looked like the oldest one of the ones that you sent through, or it kind of feels like quite an old one.
Yeah, this was from FMW in the mid-90s. I believe this was around 1995, or it might have been 96 when this match took place. It was a no-rope barbed wire death match between Megumi Kudo and Tsuchiya. So what did we think about this?
Dude,
before we get into details.
Firstly, I mean, obviously, I've arranged some bits to pop up every now and again while we're talking, just to kind of get my point across. But the first thing I did was to try and capture the reaction in this match of just the fans, just every time. The thing is with the barbed wire, the ropes, is you've got such an element there to tell a story, and you've got them on the edge of the seats from the get-go kind of thing. They were teasing either being whipped into it or being dragged over to it, and they teased it for about 5 minutes, and then when she did get Irish whipped, into the barbed wire, man, the crowd just went. Yeah. And I tried to catch that moment. Hopefully, it pops up and you can hear what I'm on about, because it's just storytelling 101.
Yeah, the thing that you see straight away from the beginning of the match is a clear establishment of both the heel and the babyface from the entrances alone. Now, obviously, it's Japanese women's wrestling, and they do things a little bit different. For example, they use a lot of seconds. Basically, the other wrestlers on the card, usually lower to mid card wrestlers who just basically after their match got changed, got into their work. Their gear, which they use to work on the ring gear, ring and all that stuff, and they basically acted as kind of seconds to kind of separate them. The only exception to this, of course, would be the heel of the group, of the pairing, Tsuchiya, whose gimmick is basically kind of like a throwback to the 80s, the 80s heel Dump Matsumoto, who's actually they're actually making a movie about that. Actually, there's going to be a movie coming out, I think, sometime this year, I believe, if it's not out already. It has the usual classic Yoshi heel tropes. Punk aesthetic, face paint, brawling style, a faction which often works interference. Like Matsumoto had the Atrocious Alliance, and while Tsuchiya, she has the Mad Dog Military, which is a fucking awesome name for a faction, I will say that. Yeah. As opposed to that, you have Megumi Kudo, who's more of a traditional Joshi babyface. Beautiful, athletic, technical style.
That was the thing that got me, was like sort of said, everything was looked on point. Like I said, it was just so clear, like the heel with the face paint was just looking scary. Like I said, the beautiful face, the ring gear was designed really nicely. It was just, she looked the part, and it was clear, even though it was deathmatch wrestling, it was still wrestling. And that's the key thing that I'm picking up on more and more with these episodes. We have deathmatch we have deathmatch matches, and then we have deathmatch wrestling. That makes sense. Some of them are just death matches, and other ones are, the wrestling is still a massive part of it.
Yeah. Well, as we said previously, they did tease the barbed wire at the start with a very scrappy beginning, which is very typical of Joshi women's wrestling of this era. I mean, you only need to look at like All Japan Women's or Gaia or JWP or anything like that to see that they tend to do have like very scrappy beginnings, like all the way out. Very vocal as well, which is very typical of I mean, granted, Japanese wrestling can be very sedate sometimes, but Japanese women's wrestling, they go all out with their emotions. Like even the kickouts, which in this match is also an example, they almost look like they're about to break out crying whenever they do like a big move, like a fucking like double, like a cross-armed like brainbuster type, suplex deal, and they only get 2 counts, and they're like, oh no, like all that emotion just comes out. They wear it on their sleeve, and that's one of the reasons I think that Joshi women's wrestling was so popular during that time, and still remains quite popular in wrestling in Japan even to this day. And also we do see like a lot of, as I mentioned previously, they did a lot of outside interference by Tsuchiya's stablemates, Misato and Crusher Maedamori. Sato's the smaller one, Maedamori is the bigger one with the shorter hair. And you also noticed at one point when they were trying to tease the barbed wire, they're teasing on the side of on the side towards like the back, not the hard cam, but towards the back, where another wrestler, Combat Toyota, who's the lady with the sunglasses and the orange hair, she was the other like top babyface top female babyface in FMW at the time. And you could see that they were just working that whole thing throughout the match somewhat. And Kudo sells, especially the way that she attacked the barbed wire when she got thrown into it. I remember watching this match like years and about 2 decades ago, maybe a little bit more to 1-2 decades, and it just made me cringe, like seeing the way that she attacked it. And she just sort of like just like basically she just like exploded out of it, like because of the pain in the back and all that.
But this was the one as well where you could tell it was old as well. Well, not old, but it was sort of 90s. That table spot just got me as well, though. I just felt just like it was a genuine ooh. Just no bounced off. Oh no, went to do it. Her feet clipped. Her feet flipped the table first time, so she just gets slammed down, and then the second time it's just a hard landing on the table. It's like, geez.
Yeah, I will fully admit, Kudo's selling at some certain points of this match became disturbing. Like, not just talking about the bumps that she took, like when she was getting her face like raked in the barbed wire, or getting like the sickle, cut over her head. That genuinely disturbed me at the time. I mean, keep in mind, I've seen like far worse death matches since this match, but at the time, it was genuinely disturbing, to see her selling like that way. And for someone who can be, wrestling can be, it can make you very cynical sometimes, especially if you get yourself into the weeds of like, all kind of stuff that fans of wrestling really shouldn't. That they really don't need to learn about sometimes. I mean, I know that sounds a little bit like very dismissive, but sometimes, unless you're actually like back there and it's your job that you're talking about, it can sometimes get a little bit. But wrestling, when you see things like that, and especially the point when Kudo starts making a comeback, that can make you believe again, in my opinion.
Yeah, that thing though. Well, again, anybody who's watching this, anybody who knows me, wrestling when it's done right, and this is this is a prime example of this match. Even though it's a death match, like I said, the wrestling aspect of it is so on point that you sort of said you just buying into it. You're hitting every moment, and then like when the comeback starts, you're there, and you're like that. You're 100% behind it, and you're into it 100%, and it's just like yes. And that is, like I said, yeah, I just think this is a great match in fairness, because it got me hyped, and I was there, and I was ready for the comeback, and I was cheering. I was kind of sat there just having a little cheers to myself, like, "Go on, yes."
I really liked. It's a very low key thing, but at one point when Kudo gets the kendo with the barbed wire wrapped around it, and she starts choking Shark with it, I could hear the crowd starting chanting. Well, they were chanting Otosu, which basically means, it literally means like, drop him, drop her, drop them, whatever. But it's basically the Japanese equivalent of choke him out,
Yeah.
Which they always say that Japanese audience are very low key and polite and respectful. When they get into matches like this, bloody hell, they're absolutely as ruthless as any other Western audience.
It's getting them into it though, isn't it? That's like the big thing. That's when you've got them, when they start when they start making that noise. It's like, yes, here they are, got them.
Also, let's be honest with ourselves. Kudo's finisher, Kudomi Valentine, the vertebraker. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think we can say fuck as far as the amount. Just how fucking brutal that was, especially considering she's doing it on someone who's about like half a foot taller than her.
Yeah, I was going to mention, could you call it the vertebrae? I was going to call it the gory driver or the gory bomb or something. I think, I don't know if Taro Helms called it the, when he did it with the vertebrae, wasn't it? Yeah. But
that's how I first learned it.
Yeah, because again, it wasn't a move that was overly well known at that time, kind of thing. It was very much a sort of a hidden gem. And to see it, I was like, ooh. No, that was the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I believe Kudo invented that move.
See, I think Guerrero might have. I don't know if Chavo or Hector Guerrero might have given it for it.
It might have been inspired by because if I recall correctly, a lot of the Guerrero stretches were fairly popular in Joshi wrestling at the time. But keep in mind, I might be completely wrong about this.
Well, so might I, to be fair. Again, it's it's everything that you see or hear, or things get blurred in. But yeah, to me, it's sort of was very reminiscent of, I don't know, something that Guerrero invented back in the day. So it might be one or the other. Somebody always claims to have invented something, but in actual fact, they've just seen it somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But I love this match. This was just, I think, a great way to sort of start. And then after this match, it just got dirty.
Yeah. Well, there's one little thing that we can probably like put a pin on the Kudo versus Shark match. Classic Purosu theatre afterwards. Like heel got beaten. Music played. Babyface, is like triumphant, and all the you had all the seconds coming in and like helping out. Doing the usual thing. Pouring water and like doing the cold spray and things like that. That is classic Purosu theatre. Like every single time it happens, it gives me very happy memories of even despite how like subdued and like very sports orientated Japanese wrestling is, they still they do the theater aspects of wrestling. They're very underrated when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Again, it's all visual. It's all part of the show. They know how to put a show on. And it's just, I just think I might actually just go on my own and just start looking at certain things, even if I'm not doing them for this, for this show kind of thing. I think I'm going to go look out for more Japanese women's deathmatch stuff. Because
I highly recommend you watch any of Kudo's other death matches that she did. We probably might cover them like later in the series, but if you want to go out and just check them, by all means, please do. I would highly recommend it. She had a legendary run in FMW during the 90s that she's done the right thing. She's made some appearances, but she's never wrestled since she retired in 1997, and it's probably a good thing, I think.
We've got one more later.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we've got one more women's Japanese one to come later with the best coup de grace. Which I'll say that out now. But we are pulling it back down into the. It's going to get nasty. It's going to get dirty. I know you've got some stuff to talk about. I want to say Lufisto or
Lufisto.
Lufisto, that's it. Versus Necro Butcher.
Yes, Lufisto versus Necro Butcher. And this is the finals of the Stranglehold Wrestling Deathmatch Tournament, which was promoted in I believe it was 2006 that it was promoted, or it might have been 2005. Either way, Necro Butcher, deathmatch legend, wrestling barefoot at this point. Now, the one I'm going to have to focus most on is Lufisto and how this deathmatch tournament came about, which had an interesting story to it. I'll go with Lufisto first. I first became aware of Lufisto after seeing some matches online of her wrestling in Mexico using deathmatch gimmicks during hardcore matches, which was started circulating on like fan forums at the time. And this is, keep in mind, this is at a time when women's death matches and women's deathmatch wrestlers were a rarity. Now, she's originally from Canada. I believe she's from Montreal, but it might be one of the surrounding cities. Someone will correct me on that, I imagine. And she is like an absolute. I mean, I love her to death. Like, she is. She's tough as nails. She's humble as anyone else. And when she gets going, she's basically an angry French woman. I fucking love her. All right, so this was Canada's first ever deathmatch tournament, and it came about because of one thing. Canada has a really strict athletic commission when it comes to promoting wrestling events, and at the time they were prohibiting intergender matches from taking place in the province of Ontario, which, if you're not familiar with Canadian wrestling, which it can be a bit of a black hole sometimes, unless you're actually from Canada or like really, really into Canadian wrestling. This basically meant that the vast majority of pro wrestlers, especially women's wrestlers, couldn't get work unless, they were having women's matches or they were just acting as a valet or any other like secondary role, which, considering wrestling is a male-dominated sport / profession, it basically meant that anyone who wanted to get work had to go over, across the border in the States, or they had to go overseas. Lufisto chose to go overseas. This ruling on the Athletic Commission was challenged in the Canadian Parliament, and it was eventually overruled, which led to a promoter getting the awesome idea of booking Canada's first ever deathmatch tournament and having Lufisto, who was breaking out at the time as kind of a name that you really wanted to pay attention to in the deathmatch scene. And she was announced as the first participant. Now, let's get into the match itself. First off, Necro hits Lufisto as hard as he hits a man, which, is the first thing that's going to get people's attention because, well, A, it was another time back then, and B, Necro's kind of old school, and so's Lufisto. As I said before, she's tough as nails, and she hits him back just as hard as he's hitting her. Like, I mean, we shouldn't joke about this, but when I first watched this match, my first thought was domestic, but, That start at the beginning with the whole walkabout and the striking exchange that they were doing all the way like around the audience and across the bar and everything like that. It was like, oh fuck me.
Just that's the thing. No, I didn't. You say that, but it's because it looks so real. It's genuinely, like I said, they're just hammering each other, and it's just, I mean, on the episode graphic, I mean, you kind of called it. You'd be like, oh, I don't know if you should, that picture. It's just, the aftermath of Butcher having bopped her on the freaking chin. She like stumbles.
Yeah.
That clip is going to pop up in a second.
The thing is, she gets up and she starts hammering him afterwards, left and right. And I was like, "Fuck me!"
But her kicks as well. Her kicks are just like, you can see, force behind the kicks. It's just like, just to bit of continuity. Obviously, we had a Butcher match on episode 2. I was a massive fan of it. I got halfway through it. You obviously told me, about Butcher's story, the journey kind of thing. So this is
This is like years and years before he had cancer.
This is him in his prime kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because this was good. I liked this. I liked, not to take away from the other one, obviously, everything he's been through, but for this one, I was just kind of like, he looks, I could kind of see why he's built this following up. I could see this and be like, okay, I know why this guy's so highly regarded.
And the other thing is, even though there is a very brutal beginning with the, strike exchanges and the punches and everything like that, Necro takes everything that Lufisto throws in, from light tubes to throwing chairs at Necro's head, the unprotected chair shots that he takes. There's the Necro Butcher signatures. His chair slam, his sidewalk slam on the chairs set up between each other. Signature Necro spots. Awesome use of staples of wrestling, and it's just absolutely amazing. The only thing that I think is a bit of a crimp on this thing is the finish that they had to go into fairly quickly, which started, I think, around the bar fight spot. Basically the spot where they get 2 chairs, both people sit down, they start punching each other.
Yeah.
Let me take a drink first.
that spot comes up a bit later, in another match as well. It'll be slightly more extreme. But I like the fact that that's a known spot. The fact that they just refer to it as, the bar fighting spot kind of thing. They just, as soon as 2 chairs go down in the ring, it's like, yeah, all right, cool, sit down.
Yeah, blame Necro for that. That he's the one who popularised that spot. So here's a story about that spot. About a week later, Lufisto participated in another deathmatch tournament for IWA Mid-South, and she had a cast over her right hand. And how she got that was from this particular match. Lufisto, the absolute mad lass that she is, punched Necro as hard as she could and broke her hand on his jaw. You can tell on the spot when she does it, because she punches him and she's like, ow, 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 and then she just takes a shot from Necro and just sells it. And I'm thinking more than likely the finish, which is the German into the light tubes between the chairs, was probably called due to an audible. Because, when you break your hand, it probably just goes to show that, it probably just goes to show just how absolutely how hard they were going in this match for them to, for Lufisto to break her hand at that point. But if there was ever a point to, injure your hand in a match in the finals or deathmatch tournament, which you're going to win, it would be that point.
That was, but just again, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But this is the other side of sort of deathmatch. The wrestling was still on point, though. I still want to point that out. They were still telling a story. There was still psychology there. There was just some awesome moments as well, though. And it was just again, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, I was actually a bit skeptical about putting this match in the list, but I wanted to put a Lufisto match in there, which highlighted just how tough she is. And also, this match has a very special place in my heart, because it to me is like my happiest memory of like seeing a Lufisto match, and it will be a damn sight better than any matches that any other intergender match that she's had. Like, I could have suggested like one that she had with Chris Dickinson, but considering how much of a cunt that guy is, with all the allegations that came out around about the speaking out thing, I kind of thought, maybe not. Maybe I'll go with the one which had a happy ending.
Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you, because I got to watch it based on your recommendation. So, what we got next, though?
The Mexican one.
Yes, this is freaking mental. Forget wrestling.
Let's.
This is deathmatch. This is just deathmatch. There's no wrestling involved for me in this one. This was just.
This is lucha. This is lucha extrema, as they refer to it down in the land of sombreros and tequila and lucha libre. I love Mexican wrestling. Banch probably doesn't know that, so I've never told him that, but yeah, I do actually like Mexican wrestling. Sadika versus Sadik Maden in Zona BC3, or Zona 23 if you want it in English. It's a Mexican indie promotion that gets its name from the junkyard where the first shows were promoted. Because the junkyards in Mexico apparently are all named after the zone that they're in. In this case, Zona BC3 is located in, guess what, Zone 23.
Right.
The bloody government in Mexico. That's all I'm just going to say. But either way, it's a very interesting name for a promotion.
Yeah, right, it works.
So Sadika came to the deathmatch scene's attention from this match and from her work out of Loco Wrestling, which is based out of Houston. Sadik Maden, sadly, I don't know too much about due to the language barrier, making it difficult to find anything in English. And unfortunately, despite my excellent pronunciation of Zona BC3, I don't know much else of the Spanish language, I'm afraid. So basically, it means that my extent of my Spanish language is about the same as Banch. So yes, Ellis, get better. Sorry. Just a bit of it's a joke between me, Nathan, and Ellis that he managed to get. I don't know if I should. Actually, no. I'll tell you about this off the recording, if it's not already out there in public. Anyway, so yes. What can we safely say about this match besides absolute chaos?
Which one's which? Obviously, I'm not going to say like one's very sort of slim. The other one looks more like a wrestler. Which one was which? Firstly,
Sadika is the one with blonde hair that looks like she would absolutely beat the shit out of you if you shorted her on pay. And Sadik Maden is the one who would probably stab you to death if you shorted her on pay. She's the smaller one. Yeah, the little feisty one. The one who... what can I say? This match got... The clips from this match still circulate amongst the deathmatch pages on Instagram. It's a somewhat old match. I think it's like maybe 6 years old, maybe a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, what can we say? From the start, I think we can basically say they both of them lay their shit in as a general rule, but that's like lucha libre as a whole. Like lucha libre is like a different beast when it comes to psychology. And if you ever want to say one thing about lucha libre, is they like their overhand slaps. Like, never mind this knife hand stuff. The overhand stuff is what they always lay their shit in. This,
for me, it was obviously I'm like, yep, carnage, and then the little feisty one went got power bombed through the back window of a car. I was like,
yeah, from the top of
wow.
the car as well.
Yes, this leveled up. This was crazy before. This is mental now.
Yeah.
And then she hits code red, going the other way.
She hits code red into the front screen. Fucking hell. Yeah.
And then there's car doors being, I presume, just lying around. And somebody grabs a car door, lays it. The little feisty one lays it on the other one, starts jumping up and down on the car door, squishing the other one. I was like, wow.
Yeah, like trying to break the fucking window, and it doesn't work. And eventually, they have to, they have to rip the whole thing off and just like start wanging off. And those things aren't easy to break.
Oh, and then there's there's the glass one where the feisty one sat down and it just whacks. I looked away for a minute because I was doing something else. And I just heard like a gunshot, and I was like, I know it's in Mexico, but surely not. And I looked around and it just
surely not. I mean, I don't think they go that far.
But that was the sound. That was the sound of the glass breaking. Though it just proper made that noise. Was just like, oh, it was perfect. For that moment, that noise just made it just so much more crazy.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, those things aren't easy to break neither, so they have to be swinging them with a little bit of force. Fucking hell.
And, it just, like I said, it was unique as well because it just seemed like, so I said with the whole district thing, it was just they are fine. I know there's a ring there and they do use it for a part, but again, it's just like
the finish, and that's about it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, there's just this scrappage yard kind of thing. You got trailers, you got cars, you got frog splashes from trailers onto pickups. From one truck
to another. Even the referee got in at one point.
Yeah, it was just man. It was just. I'm not going to dwell on this one too long, so I don't think there's too much to talk about. And I just want to say, if people haven't seen it, they do need to watch it. If you're a fan of this sort of stuff, this match is. Even if you're not, you can watch this and just be absolutely amazed.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this match other than it has to be seen to be believed. And once you've seen it, you can kind of understand why Sadika started to get a little bit of notoriety and why she's been able to go to America for ICW, NHB, and a few other promotions as well. Why even, let me put it this way, John Wayne Murdoch, who is one of the best deathmatch wrestlers in the United States right now, in my opinion. He's had 2 matches with Sadika. Both of them were absolute bangers. It remains to be seen whether they'll have a third. But, we'll see how things go.
Ooh, nice. But yeah, purely for that very reason, this is where basically, by the sounds of it, her story started. As you sort of said, she became notorious on the back of this match. This is what got her over. This is what got her onto people's radars. So yeah, if you want to see where the story starts, watch this match. It's just, I think it's brutal, but it's so brutal at times. It doesn't seem real, and it's like you're watching an action film or something, and you can kind of step back from it and just be like, oh yeah, okay. If that makes sense. Like when you're watching a film, obviously people are getting shot and stuff. You're like, you don't really give a monkeys. It's a film, but not in a bad way. Whereas in this was just like, it's so crazy and it's so violent at times. You just kind of like, it's fine.
Yeah, totally.
So what did we have after this one?
We had Mickey Knuckles versus Randy West from Ruthless Pro. The Typhoon of Tubes death match, as it was referred to. This one I picked purely because of how memorable it was, where they basically decided, you know what, let's not use the ring, except for the finish. Let's go outside and just have some fucking fun. So let's start with Mickey Knuckles. Legendary deathmatch women's wrestler Mickie Knuckles. Trained by Ian Rotten, Chris Hero, Tracy Smothers, CM Punk, and a number of other people.
Really?
Her gimmick these days is basically that of your favourite lewd auntie who brings you drink and drugs. Yeah, she's an absolute darling. Bloody hell, the matches can be. I sometimes worry maybe I should keep my door closed whenever I watch her matches, because it's not. I don't want my brother to overhear something that she's saying in a promo, or and Randy West, she came through through Flophouse Wrestling in Detroit, I believe, and she's married to another wrestler called Joseph Schwartz. Both Mickie and Randy are legitimately tough, like if you're trained, old school like Mickie Knuckles was, you have to be tough. And well, Randy probably, I think, was trained somewhat the same way, so
she's got that look about her, even the gear and everything. She just looks like old school kind of thing. You just like, I'd cross the street kind of thing. She looks like she will fuck me up. But
if she wasn't a pro wrestler, she'd be working in a prison.
Yep. This match, the first thing I'm going to say though is a lot of these matches tended to run sort of 10, 15 minutes. That sort of seemed to be like the average run time when I was watching the matches. But I watched this one and it came in at like 28 minutes. I was like, that is ridiculous. It's because they spend most of it, obviously, like you said, outside. I think 10 minutes of this match is them just walking. But well,
walking, brawling, and generally creating mayhem, especially with the artillery piece that they had outside the venue.
No.
That's not. I never thought I'd ever see an artillery piece being used in a wrestling match. And needless to, let me start that sentence again. I never thought I'd ever see the use of a piece of artillery in a wrestling match, even a death match, until I saw this match. Granted, they didn't actually load the thing. They just kind of used it to do drop kicks and things like that. But still, it's not something I expected. Just clicking on this match at one point.
I want to shout out the commentators on this match as well, though, because obviously when we're watching some of this stuff, it's crazy because the ring announcer was just. I hated the ring announcer, but the commentators was awesome. I popped huge for the spoiler when she got whacked with the spoiler, and it was like, oh, spoiler alert!
Oh, bloody hell! Bloody hell! When commentators do that, it's like it can be hit or miss, but in that case, they never miss.
Bang, watch it out. But the thing is, because of the kind of match it was as well, and because you just kind of sat there watching it, it's so intense, and you just like, and then they say something like that, I was just like, damn it, you've just kind of totally sort of not ruined it, but it hit home because I just wasn't expecting it. You don't expect humour in like the commentary from a death match. I was like, touche, well played, guys, well played. But they went everywhere. They did. I don't even know where to start with. It's like you said, the outside, fighting on artillery stuff, getting Irish whipped into cars. They're telling the fans to make sure the cars are covered for wrestling insurance purposes, just in case the cars get messed up. We've got spoilers. There's just a random chain hanging from a tree that kind of managed to hook under.
Granted, I don't know. I can't remember where exactly the show was taking place, but I mean, who knows? Maybe in some states in America that's kind of a normal thing, but over here in the real world, that's kind of not a normal occurrence.
No, it's not. But then they do make it back in. There is one bit though where they're walking back into the venue, and Mickey's just like, you kind of come and go. She's just received a punch, and the camera pans on her. She just looks at the camera, and she's like that. He just looks glazed. She's either selling it really well, or she's just generally phased for a second. Because she's just like that.
Or it could have been, or depending on whether or not we want to assume that Mickie or both of these ladies. I can't remember what the promo was at the beginning of the match. They said
the pre-workout.
The pre-workout might not have been kicking in quite as quickly as they'd hoped. Let's just put it that way. Who knows? Who knows? Like, you know.
But then they make it back into the ring. We get a running bulldog into a light tube structure, which is a very cool spot. You don't normally see bulldogs very often in death matches, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's a nice little
wrestling move.
A wrestling move. And then we had the bar fight spot. But this time, instead of just throwing punches, they were just whacking each other with light tubes.
Also, you know what type of light tubes they were using? There's a little detail. In America, they prefer that they use T12 light tubes. They're like the big, thicker ones. You rarely ever get them in this country due to legislation, environmental legislation, which makes no sense from my limited knowledge. But unfortunately, we have only T8s and T5s in this country, which hurt, as to say. But yeah, T12s have a very distinct look about them. They're like big and thick, and they also have like a very distinct explosion sound when they hit them, compared to like the T8s, which is kind of like a very. I mean, they still have kind of like the psh sound, but the T12s have kind of like a psh, like a very big sounding explosion to them. And each and every one of these light tubes that they were using were T12s. It just sounded like a gunshot was going off after each and every time they hit each other with them in the bar fight.
They're just literally at the end of, they're just covered in the powder, or just bits of glass shards. They're both sort of like, I mean, they're both white, but they both look like Casper by the end of this spot kind of thing. They're just covered in like the glass powder, the shards. I'm just like, wow, it's absolutely just unreal. Yeah, to me, obviously you're more accustomed to this. This is the kind of thing where I could show somebody a video of this and they'd just be like, why? I'm like, I'm kind of getting into it now. I'm kind of enjoying watching it, but I'm kind of, dipping my toes in. But it's stuff like this where you could show somebody who doesn't watch wrestling or who's only ever watched mainstream, and mate, this is mind blowing.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, and this is just like wrestling in general, but I do think that sometimes we, as wrestlers, do things, we can't see the forest for the trees. And this might be like a conversation piece that I can have, at another date, but it does make you think sometimes we need to reassess what we do in the ring as to why we're doing it, rather than, just doing it for the sake of getting a reaction. Even though, the only reason that we're out there, the reason why we're doing things, is to try and get a reaction. I know it seems a little bit contradictory to say that, but something to think about.
I know what you mean. But again, this was a long match, but the best compliment I can give it is it was a long match, but it didn't feel like a long match because there was always something going on. And what I will say, death matches love their Northern Lights suplexes. I think I've seen it 2 or 3 times as a finish into something.
Yeah, it's one of the popular moves, I think. The other, like, there's a certain set of like moves that people in the deathmatch seem like to orientate towards, and Northern Light suplex is one of them. It's not quite as popular as like the powerbomb or the Death Valley Driver or anything like that, but it's one of those moves.
Well, out of the 9 matches I watched today, it ended 2 of them. 2 matches. This obviously being one of them, and the other one we'll discuss, in a bit. But yeah, ended, with a Northern Light suplex pin into, again, the other light tube structure. And then both ladies shook hands, had a drink, and then went on their merry way and continued their friendship, by the sounds of it.
Yep.
But yeah, I like it.
Bizarre world of deathmatch wrestling, ladies and gentlemen.
Good job, sorted. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I thought it was good. I would recommend this match to people just to see, welcome to the wacky world. But Anything else to add, or on to the next one? So I'm just keeping an
I
eye
think
on.
it's about it. We can move on to the next match now.
Cool. What we got next?
Dash Chisako versus Suzuki from the. I'm spacing out the promotion now. I should have left that in my notes. But yeah, this technically was not a death match, but I thought to include it nonetheless because A, it's got Suzuki in, and as we established in the last episode, Suzuki, despite being like only in her early 20s, she has a lust for violence that only the violent prodigy can have, you know. And also, I wanted an excuse to include Dash Chisako in this one, purely because I just love her character. Like she's had a bit of a character change in recent years when she used to be a tag wrestler. I believe it was with her twin sister, but then she developed the Dash Chisako character, whereas she's nicknamed the Hardcore Queen. Her character's largely inspired by a lot of like early noughties, like hardcore women's wrestlers, Mayumi Ozaki and Kaoru especially. And their gimmick was basically kind of like, well, in Gaia, their character was just basically these like pair of just, you know, cheating heels, but they'd wear like street clothes all the time instead of like, you know, the elaborate like women's wrestling gear. You know, they would wear like, you know, t-shirts, like baggy jeans,
Cargo pants, baggy jeans.
Yeah, cargo pants, that type of thing.
Yeah.
They had a very rough style, and you know, Dash kind of like has taken inspiration from that. More so from Kaoru rather than Ozaki, but you know, still a really good character, still a really good wrestler. And I thought, well, I'll include this one in here because it also is a good example of Japanese women's wrestling as well. Like scrappy start, spotty, but generally good execution overall. Good examples of how to enhance the wrestling spots rather than a replacement with the gimmicks. They kept the crowd engaged all the way through, which is a really hard thing to do. Yeah, anything you'd like to mention about this?
I loved this match without a shadow of a doubt. I loved every little moment, everything they sort of did, like sort of said, you know, just the bits in between as well. Like I said, they had the audience in there just constantly excited. The audience were there. They wanted to see what happened next. They were telling us the story. They were having just this back and forth. So many little bits in there. You know, I love just the way things were set up. You know, you had the ladder at the side of the ring, the ladder bridge. You know, that was built into something. And then somebody got bulldogged onto it. And it was like, oh, nice. But, you know, it kept popping up again later. And the Jenga tower of chairs.
Yeah, the chair pyramid, as I refer to it.
Oh.
That spot served no other purpose other than looking extraordinarily cool. And honestly, I'm amazed that they were able to keep the crowd engaged throughout its construction. And even if there was one part, which was funny as all hell, when they started moving around and one of the chairs fell off, and it was like, ugh, you know, it's like, oh god, if that thing had all fallen down, that would have been Botchamania worthy. But only one fell down, and they were able to replace it later in the match, which shows that they're really good workers. And they eventually did get a payoff with it, with, you know, Suzu just going like, you know, full on bowling straight through later in the match, and it was like, oh fucking hell, I love that now. Like, I'm usually not a fan of like these. I'm usually not a fan of like these like big elaborate like gimmicks where you're like piling like chairs and light tubes and ladders and all sorts of stuff, because I feel it just takes too long, and the audience kind of like starts to come down after a while if they're a little bit too elaborate, or if there's no like seemingly no end to it. But in this case, they were able to keep the crowd like, you know, engaged with it. And it eventually did pay off in a very funny, cool-looking spot.
Again, I've got a picture of it. It will pop up on the screen in a minute. It's just like nothing you've seen before. Just a body in a massive chairs. But yeah, that bit where that one chair fell, she literally looked like, oh crap, I'm going to get buried in chairs here, because her head just went back like that. Oh, it's hard. But just everything works though, and I think, like I said, spots like this can be OTT unless you know how to do them. And then, like, they were putting a couple of chairs up, going back, having a couple of exchanges, a couple of moves, keeping the person down on the ground, like kick, 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 punch, 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 a couple more chairs, kick, kick, kick. And it makes it believable. You're not spending 10 minutes building something while the other person's just kind of laid there like, yeah, come on, you know what's going on. It seems genuine. It seems natural. But then, you had I love the fact that the hands are there to help, with the ladders. It just makes sense. I don't care if somebody's holding the ladder. Hold the ladder. That's a staple of Japanese wrestling as a whole when it comes to like gimmick matches. The seconds always will, like, someone sets up like a ladder or something like that, you'll have the seconds come in and they'll automatically know what to do. Like, guys, some people will like sit down and hold things, go there. Other person goes in and makes sure that it's stable. It saves. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the Japanese are probably fans of Botchamania as well, and they want to do everything they can to avoid being featured in it, if they can avoid it. But yeah, just everything. I can't name wise. I don't know. The face hit a coup de grace, looked all right, but then the heel hit a coup de grace, and it was just on point. It was just solid, like. Bosh.
Yeah, that wasn't a receipt. That was a how-to.
Yes. And then just a nice. Then you got the frog splash onto the table on the outside. Oh, mate, just everything about it.
And she does it. She does it like D'Lo Brown style as well, where she goes like really deep with it. Opens herself up.
So good. Everything about this match was just amazing for me. You can tell I'm literally just. I like it when I've watched the match and I get to talk about it, and it just feels like I'm watching it again because I'm just imagining it all. And this match is all over.
Yeah, Dash has a very interesting way of doing chair shots as well. Like the way that she holds it and like swings it. Just some cases she just like chucks it. Granted, these are like they're very small, like lighter chairs as well. So I'm guessing she could probably get away with it that way. But yeah,
I think
you can tell I'm a fan of her.
Yeah, I want to say this probably out of all the matches I watched, I want to say this is my favourite, but there might be another one that we talk about that's I'm like, I don't know, at any given moment I might pick one over the other. But at the minute I'm going to say, I'm going to say this is my favourite match though, just because everything just looked, like I said, the frog splash, the coup de grace, the chair spot, and I loved the big tin shield type thing, whatever the hell that was, spin lid, that looked huge.
It looked more like a big cooking pot, something, something you'd like use to like create like food for the entire family.
Yes. But yeah, I love this match. So, have you anything else to add to it, or are you?
I think that's about it.
What did we have next? Then I'm curious.
We had Risa Sera versus Charli Evans from GCW. From
this is the one.
Yeah, the NGI 8 tournament match.
Yeah, this is the other one. I'll let you go into the details of it, dude. I'll just sit here.
Okay, so GCW, one of the number one indies currently right now, and the NGI or Nick Gage Invitational is basically one of their annual deathmatch tournaments, named after the man himself, Nick Gage. And Risa Sera is a product of the Ice Ribbon promotion, and she wanted to start doing death matches around shortly before, a few years before the lockdowns, the COVID lockdowns, and she managed to get a couple of them. She eventually broke away from Ice Ribbon and founded the Prominence promotion along with a handful of her friends. She pictured Prominence as basically being like the world's first ever women's deathmatch promotion, and she did this purely because Ice Ribbon, the management there wouldn't budge on putting on some deathmatch themed show or having like their own little sub brand of Ice Ribbon for people who wanted to have like deathmatch shows. And so she just decided, fuck him. I'll make my own with blackjack and hookers and all that. And yeah, she's always been a bit of a maverick with this move, but it was a really good move, and she's come to prominence, no pun intended, with those shows that she put on. And yeah, she's just been going from strength to strength. And Charli Evans, well, Chevs is who she is. She is absolutely an awesome wrestler, and you know, if you don't know who Charli Evans is, where the fuck have you been?
Nah, I'm one of those people. Just new to me. Both of these are kind of like, I'm getting into this match being like, oh, okay. You can tell Evans obviously is a good wrestler, you know, who just happens to do death matches as well, kind of thing. We'll say with both of them, you know, they're both very early on. You're just like, they know what they're doing. You know, they're technically, it's just looks awesome. Just to the eye, just the camera people in this know what they're doing as well. I've got so many shots from this match where it just tells a story, or it's just. I said it to you off camera beforehand. For me, this match was just beautiful carnage.
Yeah. I loved how they had a very slow start with the wrestling, with some lucha influences in there. And as we mentioned previously, they are using T12 light tubes. I will say this, I laughed at the botch at the beginning when they both took like a tube each and they tried to break it over, but then it either slipped off or it didn't break, and it was like, yeah. Oh shit! Because it happened. It's very rare that will happen at the same time, but it did, and I was like, oh, "Fucking hell, that's funny." Yeah, I don't like it. I don't like it when people botch with like that type of stuff. But in that case, that's one of those occasions where I'm like, "Okay, I'll let that one slide," because it was funny.
Because even Risa or Risa, sorry, pronunciation,
Risa,
but even she kind of she looked at the audience like, "Yeah, what are you gonna do?"
Yeah,
acknowledge it, work with it. Just
I
her whole
I love the bit that she did with the kendo as well. You know, where she like Charli got the chair up and Risa just got the kendo and she was like poked it into their face and then just started doing the wank, you know, left and right with the kendo in the corner.
Oh, it just again the sound of it, like, you know, it's just it looked awesome. It sounded even better. It's one of those ones that sounds better than it looks, because if you kind of clock or you look closely, you can you see where they're hitting. So it's all about the sound more than the actual. But towards the end, you know, it does. There are a few solid shots taken. It's just like, there we go, that's it. That makes it sort of makes you go ooh at the end as well.
Yeah, totally.
But
throughout this entire match, I did notice that they were like pacing things and not going full ham with all the weapons. I'm guessing this was probably just to avoid burning out the audience, because it was a tournament, and you know, there's only so many light tube explosions that you can hear before it starts to, you know, it's the law of diminishing returns, you know.
Yeah. But again, that worked for me. I liked that, because I think both of these ladies kind of, you know, they've both got the skill to do that. They can sell the moments. They can take a shot and make you care about it. They'll sell it. You know, if they take 10 seconds or 20 seconds. Again, in this match, there's one bit where the camera just gets her when she's just got like blood on her face, and she's just laid on her back. And when it's quite close to her face, you just see like the blood coming down, and it lingers there for about 5 seconds, the camera, but it just feels like, you know, a lot longer, but not in a bad way. You just kind of, again, beautiful carnage. It looks like, you know, that could be a painting of just like, wow.
Picture of pain, almost.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I tend to make a lot of sense, but to me that's very visual. I like artwork. I like paintings. I like, you know, and to me, I could imagine that, you know, in some weird twisted way, being like a fucking portrait. I'd have that as a painting hung up on the wall. You know, like big, thick brush strokes and bright, vibrant reds. It would just be like, oh yeah, visually, oh mate, it's on point.
Oh, yeah. One other thing I did like about this match was the inclusion of Risa Sera's signature weapon, the light tube fan, which in this case it was made from a rake. But yeah, like the original light tube fan was in one of those matches that I sent you, but we weren't able to, like, you know, open up. Basically, it's kind of like The one in the match that I sent you was kind of like there was a lot of light tubes that was fashioned in the shape of like a traditional, like, you know, traditional like Japanese fan, but in this case they basically took like a rake and started like putting like light tubes into it, so it kind of looks somewhat similar, but you know, it looks like very beautiful. Yeah,
that sounds like something out of Mortal Kombat. I could just imagine that like in a Mortal Kombat game. You just got this fan of just like light tubes posh. There we go.
Yeah, probably
Katana, Katana or somebody from Mortal Kombat would use it. But yeah, again, that's good. That clip's going to pop up because that is one of the clips I had to record just to kind of put in this episode to show. Because yeah, again, visually, you're just like, what the fuck is this? It just looks like, you know, something like Freddy Krueger would come up with.
Yeah. It looks so awesome whenever it gets used, and all the light tubes like pop off one after the other as well. There's absolutely nothing better.
It's well, we'll talk about this. They do use it in this match briefly, I think, but it's more prominent in the last match that we're going to talk about. There's something I don't quite know what they are, but yeah, when we get to the last match, I'll bring it up and I'll mention it. But this match, man, I just thought, yeah, like I said, that to me was the coup de grace. That rake tube construction was visually, it's just on point. There's so many bits in this match where you just like, you could screenshot it, you could take a picture of it, you could just, it's crazy how picture perfect this match is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, you can tell. I think it's now I'm talking about this match. I'm like, oh, this is my favorite match. Then if we start talking about the other one again, I'd be like, yeah, you know, this. But we'll call it a no score draw. You know, both of these matches are just, for different reasons, just amazing. If you're watching this, if you watch any matches that we talk about, they're all on YouTube. That's where I watched them. But yeah, please watch those two matches. Maybe the last one, or maybe is it the last one that we're talking about?
Yeah, this is the last one. This one, I mean, it doesn't have the same aesthetic beauty as the previous matches, but I picked this one specifically because I wanted to have one which had Sawyer Wreck in it, and also because it also included someone who I'm also a fan of, Sage Sin Supreme. Yeah, so just for a bit of background, it is an XPW, I should point out. Sage Sin Supreme, her gimmick is she's basically the kayfabe daughter of California Deathmatch legend Supreme from the original XPW, who we might want to put a few matches in later in the series, maybe, but we'll see. I mean, her gimmick is basically, you know, with all the face paint and stuff, she's basically kind of like, you know, a Halloween enthusiast. Sawyer Wreck, on the other hand, she's been a mainstay of the East Coast deathmatch scene. She is legitimately 6'3". Yeah, she's a really tall woman. And this is coming from someone who's met a few tall ladies in his time. She's genuinely a very wholesome person in real life. She runs a women's shelter. I'm spacing out the name of it, but yeah, she does a lot of like, you know, work for the in the care industry, and she also retired recently as well, after ending her career on a very high note by winning this year's NGI.
Nice.
Yeah, well done, Ben. She left a really good body of work, so I recommend that if anyone wants to go back and like checking out their matches from GCW or like H2O or any other place that she's been, by all means do so. Yeah. So yeah, what can we say about this one?
This was her debut. XPW, wasn't it? They mentioned that this was her debut, I think. And I'm glad you mentioned the height, because obviously she looks tall, but I didn't know if the other person was like 5 foot, or maybe she was like 5'8" or something. But you kind of, when you can kind of see, you're just like, damn, I bet, she's at least 6 foot. She's got to be at least 6 foot. She's just legs. It's just crazy. This is the match, right? This is there's like a plastic thing. I don't know if it's just like a rectangle full of razor blades or something.
That's a gusset. It's a gusset plate. Yeah. I think we've mentioned them a few times before in the series, but yeah, gusset plates are nasty things which they use to hold up roofing, for construction on buildings. But apparently, they've now become they've become one of the signature weapons when it comes to deathmatch wrestling. And yeah, I've never taken one personally yet. I probably will end up taking one, but from what I've been told, they're not particularly that pleasant, and they cut you open really, really quickly, as you saw in this one. Yeah, like Sawyer, as I recall, Sawyer seems to have this like habit where she likes to get them put into the side of her head as opposed to the front or her arms, like most people. Well, I say most people, that most deathmatch wrestlers do, and it's like, bloody hell. And it made such a nasty visual as well when it was like dripping down her face,
But yeah, we had that, and then we had the I'm just thinking the most where the Halloween enthusiast wraps herself. It just reminded me of like Mick Foley. Yeah, it just reminded me like a Mick Foley spot or a Terry Funk spot kind of thing, where she wrapped herself in barbed wire, and then she just did a running crossbody at Sawyer, and it was just like, oh, and then you see the person like the ref.
Yeah, the referee got it because it was stuck in her head. Yeah.
Oh, talking about the referee, sorry, it's just reminded me of the freaking board with the spikes or
wooden skewers
or whatever skewers. Yeah,
that spot was fucking nasty. I will tell you that, especially that one that got embedded in Sage in her arm.
God.
I'll say this. I want to say this before we go any further. Big shout out to the referee Mickie Ramirez for going above and beyond the call of duty that night.
Dude, yeah, just double salute on that one, because that was just again
it's not often that you'll get a referee that will go like that length. And from a personal standpoint, I know we're kind of like veering away from the match momentarily, but I will say this: the first death match that I ever had, I almost got blinded by some bits of light tube that got lodged into the corner of my eye. I would have opened my eye had referee Steve Cummings not gone on top of me and told me, don't open your eye, you've got a piece of glass in there. And he got out as much as he could before, he helped me get back up to the medics who cleaned up the rest of it. So, yeah, shout out to Steve, I have both. I have eyesight in both of my eyes because of you. Thank you.
Wow, awesome. But yeah, this obviously the clip will pop up because just like that skewer bit, obviously, Sawyer cannonball into the skewer board. It looks crazy, and then you find out afterwards where she's you kind of like, even Sawyer kind of goes up and starts wiggling something around. You're like, there's something in there, but you don't know how much. You just presume it'll be like a little bit. And then like you said, man, the rest you can watch the clip when it pops up. It's about 5 inches long.
The size of my little finger. It's that long.
God, it's horrific. And even the clip doesn't. It's one of those clips where if you're watching it, you have to rewind it a few times just to be like, have I just seen what I think I've just seen? You're like, yep. Big piece of wood pulled out of that lady's arm by his mouth.
Yeah. And then she continued. That wasn't the finish of the match. They continued on for like another around about 5 minutes or so. So yeah, hats off to Sage and all for gritting her teeth and getting through it.
He's hardcore.
I don't think she'd had many of these, but she deserved it if she did.
That was one that we didn't talk about. But yeah, Red Stripe was going to come up in a
Red Stripe and pair of aspirin. We haven't had. We were going to get that in at some point today.
Yes. We had to do it. And if you've ever going to need a couple of cans of Red Stripe and some aspirins, it would have to be after pulling out a freaking 5-inch wooden spike from your arm. And then you get attacked by a flaming pumpkin no less.
Yeah, the spot with the like jack-o'-lantern with the spray
Quite work. Yeah, it didn't quite work as well as I think they hoped, because the flame, the flame came out and up. It was just like, oh yeah, I think visually, if that had worked, I knew what they were trying to do, and it was just like that would have been amazing, but it just didn't quite. But they tried, and I'll never besmirch anyone for having a go.
Yeah, I personally think the Sean O'Hare gimmick, the kind of like the reverse Death Valley driver, whatever we called it, they should have gone for the pin after that one thing, and things did get a little bit messy for the finish, but yeah, besides that, it looked really good.
Yeah, because that's again something else I've not seen before. This is the first time I've seen it at the match. The half cut aluminium cans. You mean, come on, seriously, man? Like skewers aren't enough, barbed wire's not enough. You're fucking about with half cut cans now. And if anybody who's watching this or anybody in existence has at some point cut a fucking finger with the can, whether it's from the thing, popping the lid down, and that stings like a mother. That's what the commentators are trying to get across. If you've ever cut yourself on one of these cans, imagine what it's like to be slammed onto freaking, I don't know, 20 of the damn things.
Yeah, 20 of these things just cut around there.
Yeah.
Another product placement, which we're not getting paid for, but unfortunately, well, not yet.
That's why, dude. That literally was a moment. That was a moment where I was like, is this just too far? I don't know if this is where I just call the line now. But, I was like, that's crazy. Just having like a board of half cut cans. It's going to be rugged as well. They're not going to be smooth. It's just going to be like, oh. Yeah. But,
I mean, you said where the line is crossed. I think we crossed that line like a long, long time ago. Like, I mean, it's in California where this promotion was running the show. We're out of line and we're into like tropical tundra regions or something. I don't know.
But I enjoyed this match. Like I said, it's very much. I know I'm starting to know what to expect from certain things. So obviously, this is the second XPW match that we've watched. We had Sick Boy, I want to say it was, against. I'm correct with names. The former
Drake, it was the Drake Younger versus Hard Body.
Hard Body, that's it. Not Sick Boy. Sorry, Hard Body. Yeah, Hard Body versus Drake. That was XPW, obviously. This is, so I kind of know what to expect. I'm starting to sort of gauge it now. And yeah, I think both of them turned up, absolutely smashed it. I am first time seeing either of them, and I'm very interested in seeing what else they've done. And now you've pointed out that Sawyer won this year's Nick Gage's Invitational. I'm going to try and find that now online at some point, and you're damn right, I'm going to watch the hell out of it.
Okay. Well, what else can we say about this match then, other than absolute chaos and if there is anything, one theme that we can basically say for this entire every single one of these matches that we've seen in this particular episode: respect women. Respect women, or more than likely they're going to bring one of these to your balls.
John Wayne Bobbitt. That's a really ancient reference, and I apologise. But yeah, you've got to get Bobbitt.
Yeah. They'll probably pickled by the end of it and all.
But no, dude, that's like I say, I said we're on episode 3. I'm starting to kind of get a feel for certain things. I'm starting to appreciate more what I like, and I can kind of pull myself away from some of the stuff that I'm not so keen on. But I think for this one, for me, this was a home run. There was none of these matches I didn't enjoy. Every single one of them had something to take away from it. I know episode 2, there's one match I had to turn off halfway through, just didn't feel it, didn't enjoy it. But yeah, this one, all of these matches, home run. I highly recommend everyone go watch every match that we've talked about in this episode.
That also begs the question, where do we go from here from episode 4? Where would we like to go? That's the question.
What are you thinking of? I mean, obviously, you know what I've kind of learnt so far. We've talked women's, we've talked sort of newly trained against veterans kind of thing. Obviously, we did episode 1, which was just an introduction. Are there any? I don't know. Do you want to focus on one person? Do you want to sort of focus on one promotion, or you know, one style from a certain country? Is there something that kind of pops?
Well, there's a few things that I was thinking of. First one was focusing on Mexican death matches. You know, lucha extrema, as it's known now. It can be its own it can be its own little thing. And it's really a lot of talent there that's really underrated. The other one was those occasions when you get a deathmatch wrestler working against a pure wrestler, like whether the deathmatch wrestler's going into a slightly less, you know, extreme match with a pure wrestler, or a pure wrestler dips their toe into the deathmatch scene. And the other one, let me look at my notes. The other one, I believe the expression that I used for this one is, "What do you mean you don't need a ring?" You know, matches involving no ring. Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't know about you, but we could do these in sequence. I think we'll go with the Lucha Libre first, Lucha Extrema first.
That's it. Yeah, all three of those sound awesome to me, because they all introduce something. Yeah, and they all offer something, and they all sort of like tell a different story as well, or you know, they get certain points across. But yeah, we'll call it the Lucha. Yep, whatever you said, the hardcore deathmatch.
Lucha Extrema.
Lucha Extrema for episode 4. But yeah, mate, obviously on this episode, nothing but, you know, thanks, because I got to watch a shed load of very good matches and enjoyable matches today, which I'm very happy about.
And actually, you just reminded me. I actually got reminded of this earlier today. I should have mentioned this to begin with, but around about the time, I think we might have actually mentioned this, like after the recording for the last episode that we did, but I spoke with another podcaster, this is like someone who I had met on a show, and they mentioned to me that they were watching an interview with an American podcaster, where they weren't so much criticizing like women doing death matches, but their excuse for women like not doing death matches was that it would ruin their skin. And I'm like, that's the least of the things that you should worry about from doing death matches. You know?
How about the
I've got scars to prove it. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
Some
yeah,
people.
On that note, I think that's pretty much just as crazy as we can get. Because, but no, dude, let people know where they can find you on the socials. Let them know where to hit you up, see what you're doing, buy the merch, all that good stuff.
Right, so you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter X, and I also have a Facebook page. And if you want to message me, say hello, potentially buy my merch, please buy the merch, or maybe buy me a red stripe. That would be nice. And yeah, let's. How can we end this whole thing?
Let's talk.
Respect women's deathmatch wrestling. You'll get one of these things in your face.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I am not going to argue with that. Obviously, you know where to find us. Just obviously, when we upload this episode, all the links will be there. We will tag Mr. Bulat in. If you're not following him, please do so. Show the guy some love. Please buy some merch. If you see him at a show, a couple of aspirins if need be. No, I'm not encouraging that. Don't ever buy anybody any aspirins or give anybody any aspirins, because you don't know what kind of weirdos are out there. Just stick to the red stripes. Yeah. And then, but yeah, obviously, thank you for watching. we've got loads of cool stuff coming up. We've got Mr. Callum Andrews coming in to talk next week. Mr. Bulat will be know of him, obviously, from the House of Pursuit. These are very technical. Very few guys have crossed paths at any point yet, or if that's...
We tagged with each other against some utter bastards from Hustle down south, but we've not crossed paths as yet in the ring, but we shall see if that ever actually happens this year.
Right. Well, that's something for me to talk about. I will talk about the tagging with Mr. Bulat against Hustle. That is definitely something I can talk about next week as well. But yeah, thank you for watching. Hit like, subscribe, share, comment, the generic stuff I always ask you to do. And remember, even when it comes to deathmatch wrestling, always work the left side. Goodbye.